Breaking, Jungkook cried on stage as Jimin approached and did this. "Don't come any closer, Jimin. Please." Jungkook's voice cracked, raw and trembling, barely heard over the screams of the crowd. The stage lights blazed like interrogation lamps, trapping them in a moment that shouldn't have been public. The Seoul Dome, filled with 65,000 fans, seemed to vanish into silence the moment Jungkook dropped to his knees, hands trembling, mic clattering to the floor with a dull echo. Jimin stood frozen just feet away, eyes wide, chest rising and falling in uneven breaths. His hand, still holding his own mic, hovered in the air, torn between reaching out and retreating into himself. From the wings, staff members stirred nervously, but no one moved. Not yet. Not when something sacred, something real, was unraveling before their eyes. Jungkook's shoulders heaved as sobs tore through him, silent and brutal. His dark hair clung to his face, damp with sweat and tears. Jimin stepped forward. The fans didn't cheer. They didn't scream. They just watched, entranced, breathless. When Jimin knelt beside him, Jungkook recoiled instinctively, like a wounded animal. "I didn't know, Jungkook," Jimin whispered, his voice barely audible, but the arena screens caught every flicker of his lips. "I swear to you, I didn't know." Jungkook laughed, broken, bitter, unrecognizable. He looked up, finally meeting Jimin's eyes. "You should have known. You should have protected me." And then he ripped the chain from his neck. A silver pendant clattered to the floor between them, the symbol of everything they once shared. For a moment, Jimin couldn't breathe. The world didn't know what had been said in the dressing room just hours before. It didn't know the letter Jungkook had found, tucked inside his coat pocket, written in a familiar hand, ink smudged with guilt. The world hadn't seen the surveillance photo shoved under the door of his hotel room. The image that changed everything. But they were seeing this. Raw pain, betrayal, and two souls colliding beneath the weight of their secrets. Jimin reached for the pendant on the ground. "I'll fix this," he said. Jungkook stood slowly, hands clenched. His voice was hoarse. "You can't fix what's already dead." And just like that, he walked off stage, leaving Jimin alone under the lights, holding the pieces of a friendship shattered in front of millions. Behind the curtain, chaos stirred. Management scrambling, the tour director whispering into a headset, Taehyung packing, Namjoon with his head in his hands. But in that sea of backstage frenzy, one person stood perfectly still, watching it all unfold from the shadows. A woman with a press pass that didn't match the name she gave. A smile tugged at her lips. Phase 1 was complete. She turned and disappeared into the hallway, unseen, as the stadium erupted into confusion. None of them knew yet that this was only the beginning. Not even Jungkook. Not even Jimin. You had one job, keep him safe. Namjoon's voice was low, tight, the kind of restrained fury that only came from deep, personal betrayal. The dressing room door slammed behind him as he advanced on Jimin, who sat slouched on the black leather couch, head bowed, hands clenched between his knees. "I didn't know," Jimin muttered, eyes fixed on the floor. "I did." Namjoon slammed his fist on the glass table, sending a bottle of water crashing to the floor. "Stop saying that." Everyone else in the room went still. Taehyung, arms folded, leaning against the far wall. Hoseok nervously packing by the mirror. Yoongi silently watching from the corner, his eyes unreadable. "You didn't know." Namjoon's voice was shaking now. "Then why was it your keycard used to access his room the night those photos were taken?" Jimin's head snapped up. "What?" "Security logs, we pulled them." Namjoon's eyes were fire. "Room 1608, your card, 2 nights ago." Jimin stood, panic flooding his face. "I wasn't there. I never went to his room that night. I swear to you I didn't." Taehyung stepped forward, voice laced with cold disbelief. "Then who did?" Silence. In the hallway, staff murmurs buzzed like static. The door stood half open, a trail of reporters already swarming the venue's lower floors. The press conference had been delayed. No one dared to face the media storm just yet. Jungkook hadn't returned. No messages, no calls. and the chain was still in Jimin's pocket, its silver weight burning against his thigh like shame. Hoseok finally broke the silence. Someone's trying to blow us up from the inside. Yoongi looked up. Not someone. His voice was gravel. It's her. Namjoon narrowed his eyes. You're sure? Yoongi reached into his coat pocket and tossed a photo onto the table. It was grainy, black and white. A backstage hallway. A woman walking away from camera, her long coat billowing. The press pass on her chest bore a name, Lee Min. Except Lee Min had died in 2020. She was standing by the rigging crew 2 hours before the show, Yoongi said. She had access to the lighting grid. She knew exactly when to send that image to Jungkook. Jimin's voice was faint. What did he see? No one answered. Because no one really knew. Jungkook hadn't shown the image to anyone, not even Taehyung, who he used to tell everything. Taehyung spoke, his voice heavy. He looked like something inside him died when he saw it. Namjoon rubbed a hand down his face. We need to find him, before the media does. The door burst open. A junior manager stumbled in, pale and breathless. He's gone. He left the hotel, didn't check out, no driver, he just vanished. Jimin's knees gave out. He sank to the couch again, hands shaking. I swear to you all, he said hoarsely. I don't know what's going on, but I'll find him. Namjoon looked at him long and hard. If you're lying, even a little, Jimin, this won't end with just a broken chain. Jimin didn't flinch. He welcomed the threat. Outside, the sky cracked open. Rain fell in sheets over Seoul, drowning the neon lights in gray. Somewhere in the chaos of the city, Jungkook was out there, alone, carrying the weight of a betrayal he couldn't yet name. But in a parking garage just outside the arena, Jungkook sat inside a black SUV, staring at the screen of his phone. The image again. That cursed image. Jimin, in his hotel room, laughing, his arm around her. Her. Yuna. The one who had promised him secrecy. The one who had disappeared without a trace a year ago, right after whispering, "You'll hate me when the truth comes out." And now, Jimin's arm around her, the timestamp proving it wasn't just a memory. Why? Jungkook whispered to himself, tears welling again. The door opened beside him. He jolted, ready to run. But it was her. Yuna. Real, alive, standing in the pouring rain, soaked to the bone, her eyes wide and afraid. I had no choice, she said softly. They're watching us. You're not safe. None of you are. His heart pounded. Where have you been? But she shook her head. No time. You have to trust me again, just once, or this all burns. He hesitated. And then his phone buzzed. A new message. No name, just a video file. He opened it. It was from inside the dressing room. Namjoon, Yoongi, Taehyung, Jimin. And in the corner, blinking red. A listening device. The room was bugged. His blood ran cold. Yuna whispered, "This started long before you ever stepped on that stage tonight, and it ends with one of you in prison." Jungkook stared at the phone. Everything he thought he knew was breaking apart. And somewhere, deep down, a single thought took root. What if Jimin wasn't the one who betrayed him? What if the real traitor was still inside? The rain poured harder. Sirens wailed in the distance. And the game had only just begun. You're lying. Taehyung's voice echoed through the dim, bug-swept green room, cutting through the stagnant silence like a knife. He stared at Jimin, his jaw clenched, pupils blown wide with fury. I know what I saw, T, Jimin shot back, chest rising and falling. She was alive, and Jungkook saw her too. She came to him last night, he told me. Then why didn't you tell us? Yoongi's voice was calm, deadly. Why go behind our backs? Because I knew exactly how this would play out, Jimin spat. You accuse me again, just like Namjoon did, just like everyone always does when something goes wrong. Taehyung took a step forward. Because things go wrong around you, Jimin. You bring chaos like a shadow, ever since she left. Don't you dare talk about her like you knew her. You're the one who held her in your arms the night she vanished, Taehyung roared. Don't act like your hands are clean. The silence that followed was almost deafening. Jimin looked like he'd been slapped. He swallowed hard, fists trembling. I didn't touch her that night. I went to stop her from doing something stupid. She was going to expose everything. The company, the contracts, the... Yoongi slammed his palm on the table. You think we didn't know? You think we haven't been living with this rot in our stomachs for years? Namjoon stood at the doorway, hands in his coat pockets, his expression unreadable. I've been waiting for this moment, for someone to finally say it out loud. Jimin turned slowly. You knew. Namjoon nodded. That the company silences threats, of course, but I kept quiet for us, for the fans, for the image. And what did that get us? Jimin's voice cracked. Jungkook is gone. Yuna's back from the dead. There's someone listening in on everything we say, and we're all too scared to even ask why. Taehyung scoffed. You should be asking how she's alive, and what she wants from him. She wants to protect him, Jimin said, softer now. And us. No, Yoongi cut in. She wants to burn everything down, and Jungkook might help her light the match. Across the city, Jungkook stood inside an abandoned dance studio, when he hadn't set foot in since he was a trainee. Rain streaked down the floor-length windows. The city outside was a blur of traffic and broken reflections. He stood still, his phone in his hand, replaying the video for the 5th time. The red blinking light under the table. A voice whispering his name. Not Jimin's, not Taehyung's. A third voice, distorted, female, speaking Korean with a trace of an accent. Yuna had told him her death was staged, that the company had faked her suicide to silence her, that someone inside the team had helped make it happen. He hadn't wanted to believe her until he saw the files. Not just videos, contracts, agreements, NDAs, a black folder she had pulled from a locker hidden in the studio walls, proof that every scandal that had ever been buried had been orchestrated. And they were next. Jungkook clenched his jaw. Why show me this now? Yuna sat cross-legged on the floor, her hair dripping water onto the hardwood, eyes tired but sharp. Because you're the only one who hasn't chosen a side yet. He turned away. Don't put that on me. You already chose, she said. You chose the truth the moment you tore that chain off and walked away. He looked at her, wounded and furious. You should have told me you were alive. I mourned you. I couldn't, she said, voice cracking. They were watching everything, they still are. Who, they? Yuna hesitated. Then she said a name he hadn't heard in years. A former manager, gone from the industry, disgraced. Except not. He's the one who forged the footage, planted the bug, fed that photo to the media. Jungkook felt the ground shift beneath him. Why? Because the world loves to watch idols fall. Back in the green room, a phone buzzed on the table. It was Jimin's. One new message, a link, no sender. He tapped it open, expecting more surveillance footage, but instead, it was a live stream. And Jungkook was on it. Standing on the rooftop of a building in the rain, the wind howling. Yuna beside him, speaking into the camera. This is for the truth you were never allowed to see, she said, and for the people who paid the price to hide it. The screen glitched. The feed cut to black. Then a countdown appeared. 00:29:59. Jimin felt the blood drain from his face. He's going to expose everything. Namjoon grabbed the phone. Where's that rooftop? Taehyung looked at the skyline frozen in the last frame. That's our old trainee dorm, Building 6. Yoongi was already grabbing his coat. Then, what are we waiting for? Jimin stared at the screen, at the clock ticking down. He knew Jungkook well enough to recognize it. This wasn't a cry for help. This was war. And every secret they had ever buried was about to be unearthed, live, in 30 minutes. No script, no manager, no safety net. Just the truth, and the flames it would bring. Step away from the edge, Jungkook, please. Jimin's voice cut through the cold night wind as he stepped onto the rooftop, rain soaking through his jacket, breath caught in the lump of panic rising in his throat. The lights of Seoul shimmered below like 1,000 shattered truths, and at the edge of the rooftop stood Jungkook, unmoving, his back turned, a shadow carved against the night. Beside him, Yoona stood like a ghost resurrected, drenched in rain, her face unreadable. Jimin walked closer, heart hammering with every step. The timer on the live stream, now down to 000413, glowed from the phone propped on a tripod, broadcasting their every move to tens of millions watching across the globe. The world was watching BTS unravel in real time. "You think I'm here to jump," Jungkook said, his voice empty. "That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" Jimin demanded, eyes narrowing. "Because from where I'm standing, this looks like suicide, career suicide if not the real thing." "I'm done being quiet," Jungkook said, finally turning around. His eyes were bloodshot, jaw clenched, soaked curls hanging low over his forehead. "You knew about her. You knew she was alive." "I didn't," Jimin said immediately, chest tightening. "I found out after you did. You were in that video," Jungkook snapped, stepping forward now, fury crackling in his voice. "Smiling with your arms around her, the night she disappeared." "That footage was doctored," Yoona cut in. "I told you, they spliced clips together to make it look like that night. The timecode was forged." Jimin's lips parted, speechless. "I was never with her that night," Jimin said quietly. "I thought she was dead, Jungkook. I grieved her too." "Then why didn't you say anything when she showed up?" "Because I didn't trust her," Jimin shouted. "And because you were already falling into the trap. Look at yourself. Look what this is doing to you." Jungkook took another step, defiant. "You don't get to talk about what this is doing to me. You don't know what it's like to have every part of your life scripted, controlled, sterilized. To find out everything you believed in was a lie, that our entire image was manufactured by people who would kill to protect it." Yoona spoke softly, almost gently. "That's why we're doing this." Jimin turned on her, fury brimming. "Doing what? Burning down everything we built, everything the fans gave us. There's a way to reveal the truth that doesn't involve dragging every person into the fire." "You're worried about the brand," Yoona said coldly. "I'm worried about the people who were silenced for it." Jimin flinched, wounded. Jungkook looked between them. "I didn't come here to destroy BTS. I came here to tell the truth about the blackmail, the sabotage, the hidden contracts, the suicides they labeled as accidents." A soft chime rang out. 000100. 1 minute. The live stream ticked on. The comments exploded in a frenzy of confusion, desperation, speculation. "Then tell it," Jimin said suddenly, "but not like this." Jungkook turned to him. "I'll stand beside you," Jimin continued, voice shaking. "I'll speak it too, but don't do this alone. Don't broadcast a bomb. Give people the story they need, not just the story that hurts." Yoona narrowed her eyes. "So you want to control the narrative again?" "No," Jimin said, meeting her gaze. "I want to make sure the truth survives long enough to matter." Jungkook's hands trembled. Then, without warning, he stepped forward, picked up the phone, and ended the live stream. The timer vanished. The screen went black. Yoona gasped. "What are you doing?" "I'm giving them the story they need," Jungkook said. "Not the one we were manipulated into telling." In the stairwell behind them, footsteps thundered. The rest of the members burst onto the rooftop, Namjoon, Taehyung, Hoseok, and Yoongi, faces soaked, breath ragged, eyes wild. Namjoon took one look around. "Is it done?" Jungkook nodded. "It's not done," Yoona said through gritted teeth. "They'll come for you now. You don't understand how deep this goes. You think the company is the villain. They're just the middlemen. The real threat is..." She stopped. Her phone buzzed. One message. No name, just 4 words. "You've gone too far." She went pale. Jungkook moved toward her. "Yoona." Suddenly, a spotlight blazed to life from the building across the street. A camera drone, hovering. Taehyung ran to the edge. "We've been live this whole time. Someone hijacked the signal." On every screen across the nation, the rooftop footage flickered back to life. All of it every word, every face. Someone else had taken control of the narrative. Yoongi swore under his breath. They're turning this into a spectacle. Yoona looked like she might collapse. We've lost the message. They're going to twist everything. Make it look like a scandal, a meltdown, a betrayal. Namjoon grabbed Jungkook's shoulder. We can still fix this, but we do it together, all of us, or not at all. And for the first time in weeks, Jungkook felt something anchor him, a thread in the storm. A hand extended not in control, but in solidarity. Jimin walked forward, voice steady. You trust me? Jungkook searched his face, then nodded. Jimin looked at the others. Then let's go to war, on our terms. And as the drone camera hummed into the rain, BTS turned their backs to it, united not in image, but in truth. They would not be puppets anymore. The reckoning had begun. The conference room was bathed in cold, clinical light. No windows, no clocks, only the ticking hum of fluorescent bulbs and the mechanical breathing of hidden security cameras nestled in the corners. 7 seats, 7 men, 1 table. Jungkook sat at the far end, hands resting on the smooth steel surface, gaze unblinking. Beside him, Jimin leaned forward, elbows on the table, jaw tense, eyes darting between the double doors that hadn't opened in 20 minutes. Yoongi lit a cigarette despite the no smoking sign bolted above his head. Namjoon didn't stop him. No one did. I don't like this, Taehyung muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. They're stalling. They want us on edge. They already have us on edge, Hosok snapped, slamming his palm flat on the table. This isn't a meeting, it's an ambush. Good, Yoongi said, blowing smoke into the air. Let them try. Jungkook didn't speak. He was watching the reflection in the polished surface of the table, the flickering lights, the tremor in his own fingers. The doors opened. A man entered, middle-aged, crisp navy suit, hair graying at the temples but his posture rigid military. 2 assistants followed, each holding a slim black file. And behind them, Yoona, in handcuffs. Jesus Christ, Jimin whispered, standing instinctively. What is this? Sit down, the man in the suit said. His voice was sharp and clean, like the snap of a guillotine. Jimin didn't move. Neither did Jungkook. The man placed his file on the table. This is an internal compliance proceeding. You have been summoned here under the emergency clause of your contracts. The livestream footage has triggered multiple red flags, and I've been authorized by the board to contain this situation before it escalates further. Yoongi laughed bitterly. Contain? You mean bury? The man looked at him. Mr. Min, you're already skating dangerously close to breach. I'd suggest you avoid sarcasm. Namjoon leaned forward. Why is Yoona in cuffs? She's not a contracted employee. She's been trespassing on restricted grounds, tampering with private assets, and leaking sensitive corporate data. She is not under the protection of this room. Jungkook stood. Then neither am I. The man's face didn't change. Mr. Jeon, sit down. You still belong to us. For another 14 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. According to Clause 17, Section D, Subpart. Burn your clause. The room went silent. Jungkook's voice was calm, but his eyes burned. You lied to me, to all of us. You orchestrated her disappearance. You forged evidence. You've been surveilling our private lives for years, and now you want to contain us. The man raised an eyebrow. You think this is about morality? It's about freedom. You are free, the man replied, to be adored, to be worshipped, to be protected from yourself. Do you have any idea what you are without us? Jimin stepped forward. You need us more than we need you. The man turned slowly toward him. You misunderstand your value. You are not kings. You are products. And every product that malfunctions must be repaired or recalled. Yoongi stood now. Is that a threat? It's a promise. A beat passed. Then Jungkook pulled his phone from his pocket and placed it on the table. This phone contains the full backup of the internal server that Yoona downloaded before she ran, he said. Names, payments, surveillance logs. Even the raw cut of the video you edited to make it look like Jimin betrayed me." The man didn't flinch. "That data will never reach the public." Jungkook smiled, and it was terrifying in its calm. "It already has." The assistant shifted, suddenly nervous. "What did you do?" the man asked, voice tightening. "We sent it anonymously to 3 major news outlets. One in Korea, one in the US, one in France, with a full legal analysis and a note." "What note?" Jimin grinned for the first time. "That if anything happens to us, the password to decrypt the files is released instantly." The man's facade cracked, just slightly. "This is war," he said quietly. "No," Namjoon replied. "This is justice, and it's been long overdue." The man turned, nodded once to his assistants, and walked out. But before he reached the door, Jungkook called out, "One more thing." The man paused. "You called me a product, a malfunctioning one, but I'm not malfunctioning." He met the man's eyes. "I'm finally awake." They left Yuna's cuffs on the table. The silence afterward was unbearable. Jimin sat heavily in his chair, wiping a hand over his face. Namjoon finally spoke. "They won't go down easy." "They won't go down at all," Yuna whispered, "unless we make them." Hoseok looked around the room. "So what do we do now?" Jungkook stood at the head of the table. His hands were still shaking, but his voice was steady. "We make the next move, on our terms." "Together," Jimin said. Yoongi nodded. "Together." Taehyung whispered, "For the truth." And so it began. Not a rebellion, not a scandal, not a fall. But a revolution. And this time, the world would see them. Not as idols, not as brands, but as men unafraid to burn the stage if it meant finally stepping into the light. "Are you absolutely sure you want to do this?" The question came from Namjoon, voice steady, but his eyes were full of weight, the kind of weight that years of diplomacy and damage control carve into a person. He stood in the dim light of the underground studio they'd once used to rehearse choreographies before their world exploded. Now it had become a war room. Jungkook didn't hesitate. "I'm done waiting for their permission to breathe." Jimin crossed the room with urgency, tossing a bundle of papers onto the table. "Then we start here. A whistleblower protection clause. If we publish with this attached, we force the agency into a legal corner. They can't retaliate publicly without breaking international law." Yoongi leaned against the wall, eyes narrowed. "They won't retaliate publicly. They'll hit us with leaks, scandals, anonymous sources. Same script they've always used." "Then we take control of the script," Jungkook said. Taehyung laughed bitterly. "You mean go public, with all of it? Names, dates, the whole system." "Yes," Jungkook replied. "And this time no filters, no PR statements, no handlers, just us, raw, honest." There was silence, but it wasn't hesitation. It was anticipation. They had all seen it now. The surveillance files, the forged contracts, the insurance policies built on blackmail. Jungkook had brought the rot to light, and once you saw the mold under the surface, you could never unsee it. Yuna sat quietly in the corner, her ankles still bruised from the handcuffs. She had stopped speaking much after the meeting. Her voice had grown hoarse from weeks of running, hiding, decoding. But now, she finally spoke. "They will come after your families." Jimin stiffened. "We'll protect them." "They'll dig into your pasts, your medical records, your mistakes, things you forgot even happened." "They already have," Hoseok muttered. "A tabloid called me this morning, asking about a mysterious prescription refill from 2018. I had a knee injury. They're framing it like rehab." "They'll twist everything," Yuna said, looking at them one by one. "Even the truth." Jungkook locked eyes with her. "Then we don't just reveal the truth." He took a deep breath. "We tell our story." The broadcast wasn't announced. No trailers, no countdowns, no flashy hashtags. Just a black screen that flickered to life on every major platform simultaneously, displaying a simple phrase in white. "We're ready to talk." Within 10 seconds, 23 million people were watching. Within a minute, that number doubled. The camera came into focus slowly. Jungkook sat alone, dressed in black against a plain gray backdrop. His face was bare, no makeup, no glamour, just him. Real. "My name is Jeon Jungkook," he began. "And I'm not here as an idol. I'm here as a human being who finally stopped being afraid." Then the feed cut. Another frame. "Jimin. My name is Park Jimin. I was nearly destroyed by a lie someone else wrote for me. This is my truth." Then Namjoon. Taehyung. Yoongi. Hoseok. One by one, each of them appeared. No production, no lights, just stories. They spoke of the early years, the silent sacrifices, the punishments for speaking up, the contracts that blurred into cages, the pressure to be perfect. Jungkook spoke of the night Yoona vanished, of how he was told to stay quiet, that grieving publicly would damage the brand. Jimin confessed the guilt he carried from that time, how he questioned himself, hated himself, blamed himself for her disappearance. Namjoon detailed the internal meetings, how they were instructed to redirect interviews, avoid questions, smile through surveillance. Taehyung told the story of a trainee who had taken his own life after being blacklisted. The company denied it, erased his name, but Taehyung had never forgotten. And then Yoona appeared. She stepped into frame, eyes glassy, lips trembling. "My name is Lee Yoona. I worked in the shadows of this industry, and I was nearly erased for knowing too much." She laid it out. The corporate arm that funneled bribes, the controlling interest held by a private conglomerate, the falsified mental health records, the data-matching algorithm that predicted which idols were marketable and which should be cut. And then the camera panned wide. All 7 members, together, facing forward. Jungkook leaned in. "This industry runs on silence. We're done being silent." The stream ended. Not with music, not with fanfare. Just a final message. Believe what you saw, ask what you didn't. The next 24 hours set the world on fire. News anchors froze live on air. Legal departments panicked. Sponsors pulled out. The agency's stock dropped 42% by midday. Some fans cried, some denied, some defended. But most listened. Hashtags flooded every platform. Truth with BTS, we believe you, burn the script. Then, just when it felt like the storm couldn't grow louder, a new leak surfaced. An internal memo. Marked confidential. From the desk of the agency's CEO. Outlining a plan to manage the members through fabricated scandals if they ever stepped out of line. It had been real, all of it. And the world finally knew. But in a shadowed office on the 47th floor of a corporate high-rise, a man with a glass of untouched whiskey stared at a black screen. He smiled. "They think it's over." He turned to a second monitor. Dozens of names, dozens of photos. New targets. And in the center, a recent shot of Jungkook. Red circled. Underneath it, 2 words in block type. Phase 2. And so the fire grew. The air was heavy in the apartment, thick with the scent of burnt coffee and the low hum of the television echoing from the wall. Jungkook sat alone, barefoot on the cold marble floor, staring at the final message Yoona had left him. Not in person, she was gone again, but in a voice note, encrypted, sent only after her location went offline. "They'll come for you harder now, but I think you already knew that. Don't trust what's coming next. They'll try to divide you again from Jimin from the others. They always divide before they destroy. But you're not who you were, Jungkook. None of you are." He didn't cry. He'd run out of tears 2 episodes ago. The footage had been aired. The world had reacted. Some turned away. Some raged. Some woke up. And now there was silence again, the kind before the second explosion. A knock at the door. No bodyguards, no security team, just a familiar voice beyond the threshold. "It's me." Jungkook opened it to find Jimin, hoodie up, eyes swollen from lack of sleep. They moved Taehyung to a safe house. Yoongi's been off-grid for 2 days. Hoseok's phone was cloned. They're cornering us. He walked in uninvited, packing like a caged animal. Namjoon wants to hold a live press event tomorrow. He says if we don't control the narrative now, it's going to spiral. Jungkook cut him off. They're already ahead of us. He tossed Jimin a tablet. The screen lit up to reveal a heavily edited video. Jungkook yelling at staff, Jimin throwing something in a studio. A fabricated fight spliced together from months of behind-the-scenes footage. They're going to leak this next, Jungkook said flatly. Make it look like we're imploding, infighting, broken. And the worst part is they don't need it to be true, they just need it to be believable. Jimin leaned against the kitchen counter, exhaling shakily. So, what do we do? We finish it, Jungkook said. A pause. You mean? We go live again. No filters, no edits, no handlers, the truth in real time, but this time. We show them everything, Jimin whispered, finishing his sentence. The studio tapes, the erased footage, the CEO's voice, all of it. They stared at each other, the weight of years of silence between them, shattered finally by the raw simplicity of purpose. The live stream began from a rooftop once more, but this time, all seven stood shoulder to shoulder. Namjoon began. This isn't about vengeance, it's about light. Yoongi followed. They built empires from our silence. That ends tonight. Then Taehyung. We are not broken, we are awake. One by one, each member spoke, not as celebrities, but as survivors of an industry that demanded perfection and punished humanity. Jimin stepped forward last. We were trained to be silent, trained to smile while bleeding. But love, real love, doesn't ask for silence, it demands truth. And finally, Jungkook. They told me crying on stage would ruin everything, that it would show weakness, that I would lose your love if I ever showed you who I really am. But I cried, and you stayed. And now I know you always saw me, even when I didn't. He paused, emotion thick in his throat. This isn't goodbye. This is the beginning of something we should have built from the start, something real. The screen faded to black, and stayed that way. No hashtags, no trending phrases, just silence. But this time, the silence was theirs. 6 months later, the world had shifted. The agency collapsed under its own weight. Criminal charges, investigations, executives arrested. Survivors came forward. More voices joined the chorus. Not just idols, trainees, stylists, managers. It rippled through the industry like an aftershock that never ended. BTS did disband. But they didn't release an album either. Instead, they opened a foundation. For protection, for mental health, for whistleblowers, for truth. They disappeared from the public eye, not out of shame, but to live, to heal, to find out who they were when no one was watching. Some said they were cowards, others said they were heroes. They didn't care. They had burned the script. And from the ashes, they wrote their own ending. Not with an encore, but with peace. And that was enough.